I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole number November 8, 2017. Please rise for the invocation by our mayor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
We make our petition tonight to the Creator God, the intelligent designer of our universe, the designer of time and occasion. We ask this intelligent designer, our Creator God, to intervene tonight in our affairs as we commence with the business of the Borough of Pottstown. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, a comment before we start. We have two add-ons. One, you can number 3.5 will be a video presentation, and I think it's 21.5 will be adding a discussion by council about our borough situation, right, our budget situation as of this date. So, let's start with number 3, Employee Years of Service Recognition Awards.
Thank you, Mr. Whedon. So several years ago, or a couple years ago, the Borough created a Years of Service initiative to recognize duration of employee service. The initiative aims to recognize individual employees for consecutive years of service to the Borough of Pottstown. Individuals are recognized every 5 years, beginning with 5 years of service and continuing through to retirement. Employees eligible for loyalty recognition must be full-time, non-uniform employees of the Borough of Pottstown who are employed continuously with the borough. The recognition will occur annually each November, thus tonight. And tonight we are recognizing 7 employees representing over 120 years service to the Borough of Pottstown. I know that one of the employees is here, I believe. So when we go up and show the photos and mention the years of service, if you are here, please come forward to receive your recognition. First is Brian Marquette. Brian works in our Public Works Department. Brian has been with the borough for 5 years now, and Brian is not here. Next is Stephen Sanders, who is a civilian processor with the Next is Charlie Weller. Go back. I apologize. Charlie Weller with our Licensing and Inspections Department. Charlie's been with the borough for 10 years. Next is Stephen Sanders, who is a civilian processor with our Police Department. Steve has been here for 15 years. Next, with 20 years of dedicated service, Randy Nyman and Rodney Stahl, both of our Utilities Department. And finally, 25 years of dedicated service, Charles Blyle, our Department Administrative Manager in the Police Department, and Jim Hennessy in charge of the water treatment plant. And I believe Chuck is here. Hi, Chuck. Congratulations, bud. It's been a while. It has.
Yes, since last year.
Michael would like to take your picture. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next year, there'll be more.
One final announcement, this time to my fellow councilors. It has come to our attention that sometimes you're speaking with your mic not turned on, or you're not close enough so that everybody in the room can hear you. So I'm going to ask that you all turn your microphones as you address.
Testing.
Yeah, it's working. Thank you, sir. Okay, item 3.5, we have a video presentation featuring one of our officers. 2 of our officers. Chief?
Just quickly, I want to update you on what it is. It's a video that was put together by Creative Health and the Missions Kids. For those of you who don't know county, I'm sure you all know what Missions Kids are. They help the most injured young people in our community, and they chose Pottstown to put together the video, and I think you'll enjoy it. So, go ahead.
Every child deserves a happy childhood. Unfortunately, adverse childhood experiences can interfere with that and result in long-term and short-term physical and behavioral health issues.
Welcome to Mission Kids. We service clients that speak Spanish and English. Bueno, a la misión de niños. Trabajamos con clientes que hablan español e inglés también.
So Mission Kids is the accredited child advocacy center in Montgomery County. That's a lot of words, but what that really means is that if child sexual abuse is reported, our job is to make the process of that report easier on both the child and the family and the entire process once it's reported.
Sexual abuse is any time a person in a position of power forces someone to do something sexual against their will. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys experience sexual abuse. Sexual abuse crosses all gender, ethnic, racial, and religious communities.
Once a child line report is made or a police report is made, either the police department, the detective that's assigned, or the children and youth will make a referral to Mission Kids for the family.
If there's no child advocacy center there, once abuse is reported, a child needs to give multiple interviews at places like the police station and children and youth services and the district attorney's office. And every time they repeat that story, they're re-traumatized by what they have to say. And when a child comes to Mission Kids, they're the center of the investigative process, and it makes it easier and less traumatic on them.
We want them to feel as comfortable and welcome as possible when they're here at Mission Kids. Mission Kids has 2 forensic interview rooms, and the conversation really is natural. It's really neutral, non-leading questions that the interviewer is asking the child, and they're also using the child's language.
All of the people whose job it is to keep that child safe, the investigating police and the district attorney's office and Office of Children and Youth, watch that interview live from another room. This way they get to hear the child tell the story in their own words without prompting, and the child only has to tell their story once.
It's really important that all of us are together, working together as a team for the common goal of keeping this child safe, of making sure this doesn't happen again, and holding the perpetrator accountable.
The importance of making your Mission Kids interview is that without that interview of your child, that formal interview of your child, the investigation will really never get started and we can never come to a resolution.
We realize that it can be very difficult for a family sometimes to get to Mission Kids. We've set up a transportation fund, and we will provide round-trip services for the child and their non-offending caregivers to come to Mission Kids by cab. They will bring them here, they can meet with the forensic interviewer, the non-offending caregivers can meet with the team, and then we'll make sure that they get home again, and it will be at no cost to that family.
While the interview is happening with the child, the parent or guardian, whoever brought the child, will be meeting with a family advocate.
Our job as a family advocate is to offer family all the services that are available within our community, and if they're not within our community, to find resources for them outside.
If child sexual abuse is reported and the child does not come to Mission Kids, it's problematic because the child then doesn't get to receive many of the other services that we offer at the same time. We make appropriate referrals for specialized mental health care right back in the Pottstown area.
Mission Kids chose to partner with Creative Health because they have high-quality mental health services. They had a great reputation in the Pottstown community, as well as were truly experts in trauma-related services.
Welcome to Creative Health. We are the Greater Pottstown Region's Behavioral Health Center, and as such, our partnership with Mission Kids is critically important to our mission.
This year alone, there will be 400,000 babies born in the U.S. who will be victims of sexual abuse unless we do something about this.
Early intervention, treatment, and support services help prevent some of the associated negative conditions with adverse childhood experiences. Those range from things like physical health problems through behavioral health problems. So Creative Health, as a behavioral health center, provides a variety of support services. They can range from case management or other prevention services through intensive treatments. One of the unique things about Creative Health is, as the region's behavioral health center, we encompass a wide variety of service and supports. And if we don't offer it here, we are interconnected with the other support agencies throughout the community.
When we take the extra step of referring families to services, we're hoping that we're going to break the cycle of trauma in the community.
Only 38% of child victims disclose that they have been sexually abused. Some never disclose.
So sometimes I have parents ask, why didn't I know? Or how do you identify a sexual predator?
Abusers can be neighbors, friends, and family members.
There's no real way to identify, but here's what you can do. You can have an open dialogue with your children. You can discuss with them personal boundary setting and good touch, bad touch.
When you think that sexual abuse may have happened to a child you know in Pottstown, we have created a way to make the journey to healing easier to navigate, completing the circle with connection to counseling and therapeutic services back in your own community of Pottstown that will bring the healing needed.
Okay, if your microphones are on, let's start with infrastructure. Councilor Culp.
No meeting.
No meeting. Economic Development and Business Liaison, Mr. Keller.
All right, I have a couple updates for everyone tonight on the economic development front. There's not a whole lot that's new that's going on. Right now, we're kind of in a lull with our grant applications as we have been for the past few months. We're expecting a few to come through soon, and we have a couple projects that we're putting together for the beginning of the year and the early winter time frame. But there have been several interesting projects under construction downtown. Pottstown United Brewery, which is a 50-seat craft brewery that will also serve food, is expected to open either late this year or early next year from what I can gather. We still don't have a firm date on that. But you can see the photo on the top right. Their facade is progressing quite nicely. They've gotten their sign up there now. So part of this was made possible through the efforts of PAID and also through Montgomery County Downtown Development Grant that provided them with some funding. Another exciting announcement is in the former Brick House space, we have a new restaurant coming in, the Vault, with Chef Kaz. This will be an Asian fusion restaurant. We don't really have a time frame when that will be opening, but sometime next year, I believe. And then as far as recently completed projects in the borough, the Schuylkill River Trail is substantially complete at this point. They still have to finish up the Norfolk Southern Crossing treatment, and there are bollards yet to be installed where the trail intersects with the roadway. The Washington Street flood mitigation project is complete. The final paving was done on October 31st. And the King Street Railroad crossing was replaced, I believe, October 20th through 23rd. So that kind of sums up some of the things that have been going on the economic front in the borough. And the other thing that I want to play for you guys, another video, is a grassroots economic development campaign that was sponsored by some of the local businesses in the area as a way to attract new businesses and residents into the area. And this was taken on the corner of High and Hanover Street for the I Pick Pottstown.
I pick Pottstown.
representing town with an evolving promise as real as young America. Pottstown offers historic opportunities for the next generation of pioneers. Be part of positive change. Contribute to the personality and flavor of Pottstown. Affordable space for the win. Own or lease buildings with character and purpose. A big, diverse borough, Pottstown has room for everyone. Pottstown has everything you need nearby, including a first-class transportation system throughout Pottstown and beyond. Life is good here, and it's only getting better with the help of decision makers, innovators, movers, shakers, and pioneers like you. Visit ipickpottstown.com today to learn more about starting, relocating, or expanding your business in Pottstown, PA.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, this is a marketing piece, so we hope that you all will share this with your friends, your neighbors, anyone that may have an interest in Pottstown. You can go to ipickpottstown.com to see the video or share it through Facebook or social media.
That's wonderful.
And
Mr. Lenhart?
Yes. At this point, I'm turning it over to Mike for an update on the In Focus Film Festival.
Okay, my mic's on. So you've heard me talk about Pottstown In Focus Film Festival before. I'm not going to go over that again because you've had an in-depth report on it preceding this. This is just a reminder that we have the actual screening events coming up. Long and short of it is we were very pleased with the amount of material that we received, and so we have 3 screening dates to talk about, the first of which is tomorrow. That's Thursday, November 9th. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. That's at Montgomery County Community College University Center, which you can park at the Reading lot to get to that. That is from 5 to 7, and we'll be doing our premiere night screening. So there'll be live music, there'll be refreshments, and some of the best entries from our 2017 Film Festival. I hope you will join us for that. The next night, Friday, November 10th, at the Hill School Center for Performing Arts. The Hill has been nice enough to open up their doors for us for a great screening venue for some more entries. That's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will be screening 2 of our award winners from 2016, as well as some student films from the 2017 year. We'll also be having some question and answer with some of the stars and creators from the 2016 winners. The best picture was Pine Tree, and that was filmed just in Spring Township. So it really is a local regional film, and it's something to be proud of. It's worth seeing again on the big screen. So that is tomorrow at the Hill School from 6 to 8. And then it winds up on Saturday, November 11th at Steel River Playhouse with the awards ceremony, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You should all have some tickets for that I put in your mailboxes, so we hope to see you there. It's a semi-formal affair. We like to dress up and have some fun with it. Tickets are free. You can get them from the Parks and Recreation office, so anybody who would like to attend, please come see me in the office. I'll fix you up with tickets. And again, all of these events are free. All of them are open to the public, and we hope to see you there so that you can enjoy the creativity we have going on in Pottstown. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Transportation, Councilor Culp.
No meeting.
Okay. Olive Ready Boys and Girls Club, Councilor Kirkland.
There is a report in your packet.
Yes. Anything to add?
No.
Okay. Pottstown School Board, Mr. Heidel.
Good evening, council members. On October 27th, the 2017 school performance profiles were released by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. While Pottstown School District did not fare as well as we would expect it to, there were some bright spots. 4 of our 6 schools showed an increase in their score. At Franklin Elementary, the scores improved from 54.3 to 73%. The 34.3% increase was the largest gain of any school in the area. Not to sugarcoat the improvements in some areas, there are still major issues that need to be corrected with performance at our middle school, as well as a greater emphasis to improve scores at both the high school and Rupert Elementary School. During the week of October 30th, Pottstown Air Force Junior ROTC Unit PA 951 program went through its annual inspection. Our students did a great job of preparing and received positive feedback on their performance. Over 80 cadets under the command of Colonel James Porter have already logged over 750 hours of community service since the start of the school year. You can find them participating at events throughout the Pottstown community. They certainly do aim high. On Friday, November 17th, the Pottstown School Board of Directors invites all fathers, grandpas, uncles, brothers, and other male role models with an awesome Pottstown School District girl in grades K through 6 to attend the first annual father-daughter dance. The events will take place in the middle school cafeteria. Events run from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. with refreshments, DJ and dancing, and a night of memorable fun. Admission for the event is $20 per couple and $5 for any additional young lady. Although payments through the elementary and middle schools are completed, you can still drop off payments at the district administration building. I can tell you that the response from the community has really been tremendous, and I am personally looking forward to accompanying a special young lady to the dance. Fall sports season for Trojan Nations are quickly coming to a close. Students participated in sports including tennis, soccer, cross-country, field hockey, golf, band, cheerleading, and football. Many of our students earned Pioneer Athletic Conference team honors, made their parents, fellow students, and the community proud. The fall sports season officially ends on Thursday morning, November 23rd at 10 a.m. at Grigg Memorial Stadium, and the Pottstown Trojans host the Owen J. Roberts Wildcats in the annual Thanksgiving Day football showdown. If you have never attended this rivalry game or have been wanting to return to see one, I highly stress that you make the effort to get there this year. Changes to the PIAA requirements for football scheduling in 2018 make it highly likely that this year will be the last game played on Thanksgiving between Owen J. Roberts and Pottstown. Finally, the unofficial results of yesterday's general election show that the school board will welcome 3 new directors and 2 others returning for upcoming terms. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. John Armato, Mr. Raymond Rose, and Mrs. Benita Barnhill for their election victories. Additionally, congratulations will go out to returning members Amy Francis and Susan Lawrence. I also want to thank Mr. Tom Hilton for not only running for re-election, but for all his contributions to both the district and the Pottstown community for so many years, and also to David Miller for putting his name on the election calendar. Personally, I want to thank Councilperson Miller and Mayor Thomas for all the work they've done for not only the district, but for the Pottstown community. And I want to congratulate Councilperson Proskell, President Ween, Councilperson Kirkman for your re-election. The next voting meeting of the Pottstown School Board will take place on Thursday, November 16th at 7 p.m. in the high school cafeteria. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Library, Mr. Green, or someone here from the library? Okay. Ad hoc zoning, Councilor Proskell.
We prepared the zoning changes for your consideration this evening.
Okay. Animal control, Councilor Miller.
You mean Animal Committee?
Yep, Animal Committee.
I have nothing new to add at this time.
Okay. Safety, Chief Drumhill.
Mr. Beard. First off, in safety, I wanted to point out to you that now that the work is done on the industrial highway, we will begin the process of slowing people down there. We'll be giving some warnings, we'll be giving some citations, but to all those, the speed limit is 25 down there, and we expect you to do it. Next, there has been a change in the community prosecution unit. Brianna Ringwood, who has been moved within the DEA's office, and her successor is here tonight. Richard Bradbury, want to come up, Rich? Want to come up, Ben? And Rich got promoted to captain, and Ben has got assigned. Rich, you want to say something?
Good afternoon. I remember about a year and a half ago when Brianna and I came up to introduce ourselves when we started the unit. Now she's moving on, as the chief said, I'm taking over, and Ben's coming along from our firearms unit. We're both very excited to be here. As I told the chief and I told some people last week, I truly believe this is the best unit to be assigned to in the office, because we get a chance to work with one of the best police departments in the county, and also have a chance to have what we do make a real impact in Pottstown. In the past year and a half we've been working, we've had a good chance to see how crime is affecting the community itself, and work with the police office to identify first those individuals who are causing and driving a lot of that crime, so we can deal with them appropriately, and conversely identify folks who are caught in addiction or have other issues going on that we can also address in a totally different way. So we've had a great opportunity to work with the police, look forward to doing so, and as Brianna always was, I'm at your disposal moving forward. So please let me know if there's anything that Ben or I or the DA's office can do to help you, any questions you may have, anything at all. Thank you.
You're good. Welcome to town.
Thank
And that's my safety report.
Thank you. Mayor's report.
Thank you, President Wayan, and also congratulations on your reelection. Councilor Kirkland and Pascal as well. And I'd just like to publicly congratulate the community for participating in the process that has created for this community through the demographic of 61% to 38%, a community that has decided that representation will be a complete one-party representation from this table. And I would just like to congratulate Mayor-elect Stephanie Henrick for her race well-run and supported. And also just to say some of the things that I have enjoyed personally is just the camaraderie with the community, and to specifically say one duty is over 100 weddings over 2 terms. So to all of those couples, some of whom have remained happy couples, others who have not, it was really a pleasure and one of the most fun and enjoyable parts of being the mayor of Pottstown. And I also plan to remain active in many of the issues that I've been fielding kind of beneath the grassroots, actually, some of the more esoteric areas of community triage, if I can put it that way, gently and graciously, that I will be continuing in those areas and reporting them through different types of media, and also bringing you a report from the outside in. And I'd just like to just say thank you again to everybody that voted yesterday. And the outcomes have already been assigned. So we're just going to move on confidently. That's the end of my report today. Thank you.
Manager's report, Mr. Flanders.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. I want to let council know that on October the 24th, I sent a letter to one of our borough residents, Carol Reichel. Carol resides in the manor, and the letter was thanking her for her efforts in keeping the neighborhood and the surrounding area free of litter and trash. It's been brought to our attention that at her own expense, Carol goes out, collects, and disposes of one heck of a lot of trash in the manor area. And when she finds items that are too large, like tires or whatever, she contacts the borough for removal. She is a true example of what it means to be a good citizen and a good neighbor. So bringing this to your attention tonight, the purpose of putting it on PCTV so our entire community is aware of her efforts. Also want to let you know that last Friday, 2 of our county commissioners, Commissioner Akush and Lawrence, were hosted by PAID along with some of their staff, and they visited several business locations in the borough, new businesses and established businesses. And the commissioners both voiced their excitement about the development of the new businesses, and were quite surprised at some of the existing businesses in town and the continued growth that the businesses are enjoying. So just want to give you a heads up that they recognize the good efforts that are going on in Pottstown towards economic development. I want to let everybody know that next Tuesday evening, November the 14th, borough staff will be participating in a drill that will test our emergency preparedness in the event of an incident at Exelon's Limerick generating station. During that event, you may hear the sirens go off. Remember, it is a drill. So please don't panic. Pray it's a drill. And as a reminder, this coming Friday, November the 10th, Borough Hall will be closed in honor of Veterans Day. And that's the extent of my report. The other details I have we'll discuss during the budget discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Flanders. We now have a presentation by Dan Schmieder, Park Mobile.
My name is Dan Schmieder. I'm with Park Mobile, and I'm the regional sales manager for the Northeast. Just going to give this a second here. But what I'd like to do is just run through a few slides. I know we're a little short on time, and would definitely like to leave some time for questions and answers.
Okay. Excuse me, you'll be addressing council.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
New to the council meeting. We're going to go without the presentation since we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. But essentially, Park Mobile, we're the largest mobile app in the United States. We have over 7 million users. We have 11 municipalities in Pennsylvania. We're in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Lancaster, Harrisburg, State College, the list goes on. Hoping to make a baker's dozen here in Pottstown. What our app is able to do, it facilitates payments for parking, whether it's at a meter or a lot, and we can integrate into the existing kiosk location that you have here, and we also can integrate into your permit system as well, so you can do away with mailing permits out, and everything is tracked by license plate. So on the enforcement side for police officers, it's much more efficient to check, and we have it. All right. So I'll just touch on a few slides here. Thank you, appreciate it. You know, as I was saying, we are the largest mobile payment provider in the United States. We have over 7 million users. I believe the best as well, though I'm a little biased. We do have 200,000 monthly users registered, and we process over 140,000 transactions a day. So we go through a lot of data, and our biggest thing is uptime, and we have 99% uptime. And then we have a customer support team that will handle any issues that parkers may have in the borough as well. As I was saying, in the case of Pottstown, it's one part permits, one part meters. So we are able to handle both those parking operation needs, and then also we have merchant validations as well for local businesses that we can implement as well. Skip through a few of these to get to our footprint. As I was saying, the largest in the U.S. One of the biggest statistics that we have is that 28% of Park Mobile users will use Park Mobile outside their home city. So what we'll actually do in the case of Pottstown is geofence the city. Anytime a user from outside of Pottstown comes in to Pottstown, they will be push notified, and they will receive a notification that says Park Mobile is here, feel free to use the app to park. So, you know, if folks don't have any coins or are trying in a hurry, it's a simple setup process, and they can park on the go. The setup takes about 30 to 45 seconds, and then your account information is saved in there, and you're good to go. As I was saying, we have 11 locations in Pennsylvania. Really helps and speaks to our network effect as far as adoption goes. You know, in the case of Pottstown, if we were to launch, we would be shooting for a 15 to 20% adoption rate. So all transactions that take place currently is through coin or kiosk. So we would be pushing for 15 to 20% in the first year to go through Park Mobile. To do away with coins and all the work that goes with those, collecting them. This is the workflow of the app. So you can see the sign-in page. Again, takes 30 to 45 seconds. And then once you pull up the map, it will be GPS coordinated to your location, so you can see all the different parking locations that you may be able to park in. We will not be able to say whether or not those spaces are occupied. You would need sensors for that. But we will pull up the closest zone. From there, you would type in, verify on the meter that you are in the correct zone or space number, select your duration, and then you would get to your payment countdown. We are able to send you a push notification or text message when your time is expiring, so you can up the ante on your parking. So no more having to run back to the meter. So nice little benefit there. We do integrate with any parking service you currently are using. So as far as operations go, the transition is seamless. And again, just to speak to our adoption rate and the marketing that we put behind our service, in some nearby cities, Pittsburgh, we have a 32% adoption rate. DC, we're near 60%. And the big number on this slide is the increase in average parking payment you'll see an increase in parkers actually in their actual parking transaction, because it's just simpler and easier to pay and to be compliant with parking. This is just an example of some signage. So we would, like to put the borough seal in the bottom right on the signs and on the meters. This is some examples of that as well. This is our launch process. Typically takes 4 to 6 weeks, but there's a lot that goes in to our launch process, and we have a dedicated marketing team and dedicated customer service team in-house to help Pottstown get up and running and hit that 15 to 20% adoption rate. And just lastly, along with the push notifications, we can notify constituents if there's any road closure, any snow emergency, or any event that you would like them to attend. That's something that we're able to do as well. Goes kind of along the geofence capabilities as well. So these are some examples of some marketing efforts and push notifications that we're doing in the U.S. And then this is a bit of our reporting, so you can see, just where demand is, and if you do think, you can see where revenues and where, excuse me, you can see where different areas are higher in demand, and you can adjust parking prices accordingly. So with that, you can do either by giving us a call, email, or we have a self-admin portal as well. So with that said, happy to answer any questions on the program.
I've seen this in other places, and I think it's set up on the meters somehow, but you can also, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to have their phones to be able to use this, so you'll still be able to use the coinage, yes?
Yes, you can. It's just solely an option. So the coin option is there as well, and we're just living alongside as a payment option.
And anybody in this area, any other towns in this area that have this?
So Conshohocken, Doylestown are coming on the map this month, and then Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Lancaster, Mount Lebanon as well, and State College.
So what are the payment options?
So we offer we offer just about every single payment option: Amex, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Apple Pay, Chase Pay, just about every single one. MasterPass.
And then what about marketing and signage costs to the municipality?
So that is all included. There is no sign-up cost. There is no setup costs either. My manager happens to be from Pennsylvania, and he did say it is a Pennsylvania discount. So everybody, any municipality in Pennsylvania, there are no setup costs.
Okay, and then how does it? So you said about a geofence. So if I'm driving my car into this geofence area, it doesn't specifically know what space that I'm parked in. So how does law enforcement know that I went over my limit? How would they be notified of that, or would they?
So on the enforcement side, there's a web application that will give a list per zone and space number of license plates that have paid in that zone or space number, and then they'll be able to see the time that is expiring. If the license plate does not show up, then they know that vehicle is not compliant and they have to issue a ticket.
So they're just actually looking at an app to say, they're looking at an app and it's showing them this person is parked here and their time is expiring, go get them, basically.
So they're looking at just a list of license plates that are paid and when they're expiring. They don't know necessarily if that vehicle is there. So it wouldn't be efficient to try and hunt down those license plates in specific zones that have time expiring, because you don't know if the vehicle is there because there aren't any sensors. Yeah. Yep.
I'll make it specific to Pottstown for us. Basically, what it is the app has it that we can get onto it. It'll be on all the police cars and parking enforcement. And basically, what they do is they break the town up into zones. Let's just say the 100 block is zone 1. If you park in zone 1, you go on there and you log on and you pay. If the parking enforcement or the police come there, they pull up a map. If that license plate isn't in there, then it's issued a ticket. But the nice thing about this is, first off, it doesn't cost the borough anything. Secondly, it takes away the cost of equipment like kiosks and stuff like that. We're going to keep that up for a year or two just to make sure that we can do that. But that's what and you can help me out here. That's basically what we're talking about. Just an FYI too, if you park in zone 1, the 100 block, and you paid for, and we say there's a 3-hour time limit on it, you have to leave the 100 block or you would still get a ticket. You would not be able to just move your car 3 feet because you would still be in the block. You would literally have to cross over into the 200 block and park. So that, this app has hit all the points of the parking committee that we have. I mean, all the contentions that we had. We talked about permitting, we talked about having to walk back to your vehicle. You don't have to do anything of that. You could be sitting in a restaurant, you could be sitting in Lily's, eating lunch, and it sends you a notice that says, in 5 minutes your time expires. You can simply log on, put it in right there, and not even leave the restaurant. You don't have to run out, you don't have to do that. And if you remember, we had the issue with Shyla and parking in that lot. All you have to do is simply go into the parking number, and she can log on the computer and pay right from her computer screen and put in the license plate number. So it covers all the things from the parking committee that we were talking about.
So I want to just go back a second. So it doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't cost the borough anything.
Correct. How our payment structure works is we tack on a convenience fee to the consumer that will cover our product and services as well as merchant processing.
What, is that done by a percentage? Is that fee a percentage of what the parking cost is, or is it a set amount?
So our convenience fee typically starts at 35 cents, and then our merchant processing we tack on, and it is a flat rate, typically of 10 cents. So it would be a 45-cent convenience fee.
So what if I don't use the app and I just use coin? Are we increasing
nothing?
Parking?
I do not know if you're increasing any parking rates, but nothing changes on the coin side.
So it costs me more to use the app to park.
Correct.
But
yes.
It's the convenience of not having to use the coin or refill the meter.
Yes.
And that 45 cents is just, it's not per hour, right? It's just, is it per hour?
It's
or
just per
use?
transaction.
And if you do that, then you would actually pay a little bit more, but you'd only have to pay one convenience fee. That's why they're seeing increases in their parking revenue.
Just as
Can you
far
explain
as
how that is an option as well.
Oh,
by
I gotcha.
dialing.
Yeah. So if you don't have a smartphone and you don't want to download the app, but you still want to pay by credit card, you can actually dial a 1-800 number and pay over the phone by credit card. So we're the highest level of PCI compliance because we handle so many credit card processing transactions, and we do have 24/7, 365 support in-house.
Parking champ or something like that. But it's certainly very convenient for in the process. So I'll take care of it.
Yes, and once you set up your account once, really literally takes 5 seconds to pay for parking, and you don't have to worry about parking tickets in the future. You know when you're not compliant, know if you need to move the car or extend time.
So I don't have the answer to this, but you probably do since you have so many customers. If I'm charging like $1 to my credit card, are they, I mean, I just wonder if they're going to charge some kind of surcharge
The
for
credit
being
card?
such a low amount for them to process.
Well, because we handle so many transactions, we were able to negotiate a merchant processing rate that was convenient for us and every municipality that we serve. So it really isn't an issue for us. I don't think, yeah, I don't know if your personal credit card
Yeah, that's what I was
wouldn't be okay with a small transaction. But I would hope not.
I have a scenario that I'm thinking of. If you could follow me for a minute. Say I'm going downtown to purchase a large item. And I park at a space, and I pay for 30 minutes. I go into the merchant, negotiate the sale. I leave the space within my 30-minute time. I pull up in front of the merchant to carry my merchandise to my car, and I'm beyond the. Well, I left my spot, within the 30 minutes, but pulling up in front of the merchant, it went beyond the 30 minutes. I'm going to get ticketed in that situation if I'm still in zone 1.
If you're in the same zone, you're still compliant. If it is pay by space, and you move to a different space, then you're no longer compliant. It hasn't been decided if the borough is going to do pay by zone and
Okay,
license
so
plate or pay by space.
So there's a space option and a zone option.
Yes, yes. And it's essentially tracking by license plate number or tracking by space number. So if it is zone license plate number, then you're still compliant and you're okay. If it's space number, then you could get a ticket.
I think we are leaning, what I heard, is leaning towards a zone type
Yeah,
approach.
I can see that definitely being
And you did say that you get a notification, so if it's 30 minutes and you're allowed 3 hours in that zone, you're gonna get a notification to say, hey, either tap more money onto your, so that you don't get a ticket because you're over your 30 minutes.
Yes, correct, yep.
How often does it happen that someone uses their Park Mobile app and for some reason it doesn't go through and they end up with a ticket?
So those
'Cause I know
cases
that-
are typically if you type in the wrong zone number, if you say 208, if it's 208 and you say 218, it's very rare, but it does happen. And if you call our customer service line, we will check your account and see if there was a payment in the time that you had a ticket, and then we will route it to the appropriate person within Pottstown, so it saves time on the customer service end for Pottstown, and it's one less angry parking complaint coming in. So we try and take care of those calls as best we can.
And all your signs let you know, there's signage that says you're in zone 1. There's something letting people know.
Yes, there will be a decal on every single meter that will say the zone number, and then depending on the borough's requirements, we can place signage within the borough as well.
You had mentioned about getting rid of all the kiosks. But what about people that don't do the Park Mobile?
Eventually, you're going to run into I'm saying that we keep them for a solid 2 years and then evaluate them at the end of that 2 years. If we're making money on the Park Mobile and it's become integrated into the community, I can't see spending $13,000 for a kiosk when we're getting a service that updates itself and pays for itself. And, I mean, to me, it just seems like a good, logical thing. I mean, if you want to go that route, you can put the meters back in town, and everybody can run with a pocket full of change. But this is cutting edge. This is something new.
But not especially elderly or older people aren't cutting edge, and they don't all have phones or whatever to do this. So, I mean, do you think this could be a problem, or you would have certain areas that you could just park that have like the parking meters that just have the.
And that's why we're keeping the kiosks at the lot, because what we're hoping to do is push them off High Street back into the lots, because right now with the 3-hour parking, they're not parking in the lots, they're parking on the street.
And then, Chief, there's always the option of free parking that's out of the, whatever zone that you've determined to be charging.
Yes, sir.
So if I drove on the next block, then I can park there. There's not charges all over town.
Correct. When you change over to a zone, you change to the next zone, you have to go back and pay on that zone. But realistically, and next month, we're going to give you the parking presentation of what we think. But why we brought him this month is because this is something that, as far as the parking committee, and Burke's here if you want to talk to him, but it's checked off all the blocks that we've had, the stumbling blocks that we've had through the parking committee. Of what about this, what about that, what about this permit? The one thing that he hasn't talked about yet, and Dan, if you want to just touch, is our current permit system. I know we've sent you the data on our current permit system.
So, I mean, just as far as the permit system goes, our structure for that is just tacking on $1 to each permit that is distributed. And from the Pottstown side, it will go to the appropriate person, and they will either approve based on the requirements for permit A, permit pink, blue, or green. And then once that is approved, it will kick to our system, and that license plate will then be compliant in that zone, whichever permit, pink, blue, or green. So then the officer will when they are manning the lot, they'll be able to see whether or not a vehicle is paid within that permit, and no paper transaction has to take place.
Is to offer more flexibility for people that want to have long-term permits. So if somebody only wanted a permit for a month or 2 months or 3 months, we would have the flexibility within their system to be able to do that. Likewise, if we had a big event going on in town where we wanted to give everyone free parking for the day, we would also have the ability to put something into the app that when someone would go to pay, it would say, it's July 4th parade, parking free, something to that effect. So it really gives us a lot of flexibility to react on the fly with different things.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will hear from the Greater Pottstown Tennis and Learning. Evening.
Hello, good evening. I'm Karian Perlin, Executive Director of Greater Pottstown Tennis and Learning. We are a tennis and education 501c3. We are also a registered national junior tennis and learning, which was created by Arthur Ashe, African-American tennis player. We now are under USTA Foundation, which is a 501c3 foundation, an arm of United States Tennis Association. There are 400 national junior tennis and learning across the country. And before we get into that, we want to show you a video made by Howard Brown and Mika Patch. NJTL, the National Junior Tennis and Learning, was started by Arthur Ashe, an African-American tennis player. And his reason behind it was to combine tennis and education to better enrich under-resourced kids, specifically in urban areas. We're just taking that philosophy and his mission and bringing it here in Pottstown. And by bringing free and low-cost tennis to this area, we're giving them the opportunity to try something new.
Tennis inspires you and it's something new to try. It's fun, it's good for you, and it helps you try new things. It's a challenge.
There's an academic part, there's a fitness part, and then there's a life skill or character building.
All the games we do are fast moving, so it's really getting them to understand sort of that fitness aspect. It's not just us mentoring them, I think it's them mentoring each other. We've seen a bunch of kids that have actually taken on probably partially because we have that leadership component in, that kids recognize that if they don't win a game, they can also do other things to score points. And, whether it's just pumping other kids up and, helping them to be more positive. And that's what we want. We don't want it to be just about us mentoring them. We want them to actually take leadership too.
Tennis is sort of the vehicle that we're using to get to the kids. We're teaching them the life skills that they're going to need to succeed in the classroom, at home, and beyond that when they get out into the real world.
It's a great tool to teach resilience because I think they're finding out that even though they're 3, 4, 5 years old, it's not easy, but they improve on it each week.
If you're able to get a positive mentor outside of your home and outside your school, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and that's one thing that the Tennis Association provides for the kids.
As a parent, I love this program. I am very proud of my son. He is excelling, and I can be nothing but happy about the changes that I've seen in him. GBCL has helped Xavier get out of his shell. He is more active, more physically active. He is able to talk to other young people in a way that he wasn't able to before. He's much more confident than he was before.
The behavior in school escalated to even greater things, like the teachers are astounded by how willing they are to participate.
Kylie has cerebral palsy. Some of the muscle tightness causes her to have a little imbalance in her trunk area. Using her trunk then to reach for things, balls, and use the racket and whatnot helps build strength in the trunk area and gives her better trunk control.
Teach them all about respect and teamwork and cooperation and trust. We're trying to do an outreach program and introducing all kinds of areas in Pottstown that's going to allow the kids to have these opportunities. If they love it, tennis starts to speak for itself.
GPTL coaches really felt at home with a quote from Benjamin Franklin, and that quote says, "Tell me and I will forget. Teach me and I may remember, but involve me and I will learn."
We are in Pottstown schools every day from September to June. And we also, besides doing after-school programs right in the schools, we also do free tennis camp all summer long. So with the support of USTA Foundation, 20 of the chapters that are directly funded by USTA Foundation had an opportunity to apply for 100% funding for brand new courts. 5 sites got chosen, and Pottstown was one of them. So we were awarded by USTA Foundation and American Express 3 brand new tennis courts to be fielded at Maple Street Park. So there's 2 existing tennis courts that are in okay shape. They're going to redo those 2 tennis courts. They're going to add a 3rd. They're going to bring in all new fencing and all new drainage. And it is no cost. It's 100% funding. And the reason why we were awarded one of 5 in the country is because of all the programs we're doing year-round. So we have about 1,600 players. Now, they are not just Pottstown School District kids. We have a paid program as well, which is called the Community Tennis Association. So what happens is through our paid programs, that helps subsidize some of our free programs. So we're integrating the community outside of Pottstown with Pottstown. So these 3 courts would be used for all tennis programs, whether it's scholarship for Pottstown kids, whether it's free after-school program, or whether it's driving economic growth into Pottstown. But we were awarded $108,000 for 3 new courts. So we wanted to present this to you guys today. Our mission is to mentor life skills, healthy behaviors, and learning through tennis. Our vision is to improve the quality of life for both adults and children in the greater Pottstown area using tennis as a tool to mentor on and off the court. My background is education. I have a BA in elementary education, a master's in special education, and I do have my education leadership. I never was a practicing principal because I feel like I can make more of an impact bringing educational enrichments to the school as a nonprofit. We are one of 20, as we said, that are directly getting funded by USTA Foundation. And USTA Foundation's mission is to bring tennis and education. So life skills, mentoring, positive behaviors through using tennis as a tool. We do year-round programs, as we talked about. As you saw in the film, we do adaptive tennis, which is special needs tennis. We also do peak programs. We go into the peak sites and we deliver tennis. You saw some of the little 3- and 4-year-olds. We're doing that early on. So the benefit for these 3 new courts, providing safe haven for children to exercise and learn after school, teaching problem-solving strategies on and off the court, promote social and emotional skills, health and wellness, and family environment, and educational enrichment programs. There is no cost for the residents to build these courts. American Express and USTA Foundation are funding it. As I don't know how much the tennis courts are getting used now. Michael might be able to answer that. I'm not. I know that we're not currently on those courts. We're usually at Pottstown High School, Hill School, or the schools themselves, and YMCA. We will provide activities to bring families from outside Pottstown into the borough, as well as inclusion, bringing everyone together. And you heard one of the parents say, tennis was the avenue that my child can talk to all sorts, ages, levels, whoever. Free youth programs and discounted for adults. We talked to the senior center about doing pickleball leagues for the seniors during the day, getting the seniors involved maybe as a tutoring help with the youth, and community engagement. National initiative by USTA Foundation. 7 sites across the nation have been chosen and funded by USTA Foundation to do a new initiative called Serve and Connect. And what that is it's bringing kids and cops on the tennis court. So Chief over there is going to be having a racket in his hand. And our big kickoff is probably going to be February 24th. Going to get the tennis racket ready. And,
I won't stand around and wait for it.
So they were nice enough to understand how important it is to let's have a conversation early on about police officers and children, and that there's a mutual benefit to both. So we'll be launching that in February, and that's pretty much it. So for future, what we'd like to do with those 3 courts is eventually enclose those 3 courts so that we have a year-round tennis facility to provide a safe haven for kids. And we would have an educational center next to it where we can do tennis and tutoring. These are nationwide NJTLs. There's one in New York. Their after-school programs were so successful, the whole city of New York City, the whole city is now NJTL. All the after-school program in all New York City schools are run by National Junior Tennis and Learning. And in fact, the school district, the city of New York, actually contributes to those after-school programs because they've been so effective of using tennis as a tool to mentor, then give the educational aspect and enrichment. So we are hoping to use that model and be able to fund more additional after-school programs to each school. In 2018, we'll be in every elementary school and the middle school, giving free after-school tennis programs.
If you were going to close in the Maple Street tennis courts, would the kids then not have access unless there was somebody there offering a program?
So what we've talked about with Michael is we were going to have a borough membership where there'll be open time. You can come as a borough resident. There'll be open times that you can just come and hit with your parents. And then there'll be set times of instruction and private lessons and things like that. But we would like to build in a time that there'll be open play.
So I believe what council is being asked is, one, if they're interested in partnering and doing a public-private partnership to get our tennis courts brought up to a new standard and add one and deal with some stormwater issues in that area. And two, if you're willing to do that, then Monday night it might look something like authorize staff to move forward with the discussions and the solicitor to enter into some type of an agreement to move it forward.
And I know there are 6 heads sitting up here asking, is there any cost to the borough? And your answer is no.
And I guess in your other communities, what has been the vehicle or what type of arrangement contractually have you had with municipalities and third parties? I mean, some kind of park use agreement, or what do you envision happening so we can structure something? And I'll direct that to Michael as well.
So in other cities, Philadelphia, Boston, New York City, they do a lease agreement as long as you're offering free or for youth programs. They let you rent the land or the courts for $1 a year. And it's a period of like 10, 15 years, whatever it is, as long as you are offering services that benefit the youth of Pottstown, that's the agreement.
Do I have something to add? Just that I can echo that the current state of the tennis courts at Maple Street is they are underutilized. We don't see a lot of traffic across them. That is because they are in ailing condition. We don't have, within the Borough Park system, we don't have tennis courts to speak of. Those are the only ones, and they are somewhat ailing. So we see this as an opportunity to have some renovation of those courts and to have them looked after by individuals who are bringing a program with quality, but also making room for public uses. So we see it as the best of both worlds. That is, we'll have an update to the facilities, an update that does not cost the taxpayers anything. We're still going to maintain the ability for open play at times, but also bring in programming that's done by professionals that has educational and fitness value. So we really see it as a win across, because we have multiple components coming together. Right? Does that answer your question?
Very good. Hearing nothing more, we'll list this for Monday evening. Can we hear from Dawn Gulick? There she is.
Good evening. And I just wanted to say that I'm here to respectfully ask your permission to host the 3rd annual Pottstown Bike Race in 2018. We had another successful year in 2017, and after the race we sat down with Mr. Flanders, the chief, and Corporal Long, and we kind of went over, as we did, we kind of recapped the race, and we came out with 2 things that we want to address for this coming year. One was it became very apparent that last year, in our attempt to kind of make it a sports weekend by coupling with the half marathon on Saturday and the bike race on Sunday, that we significantly taxed the police department that weekend. And so, okay, so we tried it. Not a good idea. Let's move on. So we consulted with Chris from the marathon, and we're going to get off that weekend. So he has his weekend he'd like, and so we're going to move to the next weekend, which is fine, and that works very well. We have other reasons why that works for us as well, besides just Chris and his event. There's also the Masters National Track Championship will be up in Trexlertown the week before, actually the 2 weeks before. So we don't want to be on those weekends anyway. So it actually is very convenient. So I don't want to sound like we're being so altruistic as to being the gracious ones to move. It actually is to our advantage too. And that way it puts them on separate weekends, and we don't tax the police department with that situation. The other thing that has become apparent is some road issues. And so to be quite frank about it, Evans Street has gotten pretty ugly. And if there's no no plans to repave anything. We'd actually like to go back to the first-year course, which was down Charlotte Street. That's in better condition. It shortens up our course a little bit, actually makes it a little easier again on the police department with respect to road closures, as well as the borough, and takes one of the many churches that are on the course off the course, the one up High Street by Evans, and so that helps that a little bit as well. It also helps some vendors in Pottstown with respect to getting access to their facilities. So that being said, our date that we're looking for is Sunday, July 22nd, and the flyer that you have there is what we will propose to USA Cycling, if you guys are okay with that date.
Just one. I mean, I enjoyed the race very thoroughly. I had really just one complaint, and that was from Elastic Furniture. I guess last year's course was a little bit changed due to the construction of the First Baptist Church.
Correct.
So I guess you might have answered my question. You were going back to the,
Yes.
the first course, the first year that you had it, would that kind of help some of the issues that we had with Marcia and
Yes.
Elastic? And then I might go talk to her just to make sure she's
Okay.
happy.
I was
But,
trying to avoid naming names, but
Okay.
you said it.
Yes.
It's out there.
Yeah.
So be
I
it.
understand her
That is
position, but,
exactly who I was thinking of with respect to the situation of people not being happy with being boxed in. So absolutely, you're on the money on
I
that
think
one.
it's good publicity for them.
Right,
too.
and
There's
I
lots of
understand that.
folks
I totally get it. I mean, I understand why that would upset people. We tried to be accommodating with other situations and being able to get in through the interior of the course from Evans Street, that parking lot there, down through the YWCA and in the back way. And again, the police were incredibly cooperative in doing all that. It just sometimes there's just situations where people just aren't going to be happy.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay?
All righty.
We'll
Thank you.
list this for Monday evening. Thank you. 10 is a conditional use order, ABP Investments.
If council recalls, we went a little bit out of sequence last month with respect to our conditional use because we held the hearing at the regular meeting as opposed to the committee of the whole meeting. And there was a hearing requesting the use of single-family attached units at the property of 505 Lincoln Avenue. Put together a draft order for your review. You are under a time deadline to act on the request. Monday night would be within the time frame, and if there's any questions or concerns, we can talk about them now. We're also permitted to talk about this in executive session since you are acting as a judicial body in this case, but based upon the information presented, it would seem on the surface at least that the applicant has satisfied their evidentiary burden. A conditional use is a very simple, easy burden so long as they satisfy the requirements in the ordinance. You're not approving a land development, you're not approving a subdivision, you're simply saying, subject to them complying with all other ordinances, they have the right to build these 6 townhome units on the property. So this is the first step in moving that project forward if they choose to do so.
Any questions on this?
I have one question. I don't know if anybody can answer it, but it's an investment company, and hopefully their intention is, since there's 6 single-family units, is to sell these for owner occupancy. This investment company doesn't plan to build these and be the rental agent for them, do they?
At this point, I don't know that we have enough information on what they intend to do, whether they're going to be condoed apartments or sold as fee simple. And I'm not sure legally we can control ownership rights. So at this point, I don't know the answer to that, Ms. Feller.
I have a question regarding possible runoff effects to the houses that are downhill. Same thing like that happened with the Main Street crossing. Is there any way they could build in some type of, help for people that may be affected from a runoff condition?
Well, when they bring their plans to planning commission, all that's reviewed by our borough engineer.
Okay. I mean, I know it was reviewed with the Main Street crossing and then all the basements flooded. So I'm just saying that since that does happen and can happen, is there a possibility that there's some recourse funding from the builder for those people that are going to be affected potentially?
Well, I guess I can speak to, the ordinances have been updated since May Street. I'm not saying that makes them better, worse, or foolproof, but there's certainly more stringent stormwater management requirements now than there were 10 or 12 years ago. So in theory, under the law and under our ordinances, a development is not permitted to increase the rate of runoff. It's not permitted to change the runoff in any way. We're looking at a situation where, in theory, water would be held on the site and allowed to leave the site in appropriate channels in a perfect world. So, presuming they follow our ordinances, they will not have the risk of what you're suggesting, but certainly there's no way to 100% guarantee that, Mayor.
Well, during the planning process, though, is that something the planning commission could request?
It's required. They have to meet all our ordinances.
No, that's not what I'm asking. So in a perfect world, in an imperfect world where they build it, and rather than us having to go back and cite them for something that is not perfect, is there something that can be put in place, asked by the planning commission of the developer, have this holding something, an escrow?
I don't know if it's done there. I know planning can make recommendation to council, and that's all planning does. And then if that could be added at council.
It can be talked about at planning commission, but we're not permitted simply to impose conditions unless there's an ordinance requirement or the ability to have an ordinance requirement on the issue you're talking about. So while we can, and again, I don't know how the site's going to be laid out. I don't know whether there's going to be stormwater basin, surface or subsurface. We certainly have the right to ensure that the basin and the stormwater facility is properly maintained. I've never heard of any state regulation that would necessarily require a developer to have an escrow in place to assist other properties that are later impacted by stormwater. But that could be something could be discussed.
Okay, if nothing more, we'll list that from our deed. Okay. 11, zoning ordinance amendments. Mr. Keller.
All right. Tonight we have 3 sets of zoning ordinances for council to consider. You have the copies of the full ordinances in your packet. To save a little bit of time, I've prepared a slide on each one of them which summarizes each one of the ordinances. The first one, actually, let me go to what we have first on the agenda here, are various ordinance cleanup items. So these were a number of different items, undoubtedly when you go through your rewrite zoning ordinances and then you start to actually, apply them on a day-to-day basis, you find little inconsistencies or wording changes that should be switched around in the ordinances. So upon recommendation of the county and some of the staff at L&I, we are proposing to make some of these cleanup changes in an effort to provide more clarity for applications going forward and to clear up any issues with interpretation on the part of our codes department. So listed here are the changes that are provided. There's very minor changes to the convenience store with gasoline and wireless towers. That's in your packet. Neighborhood convenience store, consumption of food off-site was added. Uses in the flex office district are suggested to be revised so that they're consistent with the minimum 30,000 lot size that is permitted in that district. And then renaming semi-detached single-family dwelling to the more commonly used semi-detached dwelling, and providing a new definition for that better describes the intent of that use, and then revising the definition for attached single-family dwelling to read a building consisting of not more than 4 dwelling units which are attached by common vertical walls. Each unit have a separate or combined entrance or entrances. And then lastly, revising the definition of dormitory. I think mainly the point here was that it does not include anything that would be considered a bed and breakfast, tourist home, boarding home, group home, or rooming house. And I don't know if Chuck, if you have anything additional to add to any of those.
No, I think Justin summarized the reason for the changes. I don't think any of the changes were intended to be substantive, but rather purposes of clarification. So again, because they were all so minor in nature, it made sense to put them together in one ordinance to avoid multiple advertising and costs associated with the changes. And council has any questions specifically, it will take a little time to get this in a form and have the public hearing. So we're probably looking at realistically an ordinance to be adopted in our January meeting with respect to these changes. So we do have a little bit of time. If anybody wants to take a look or has questions, we have time to respond to your inquiries. But I don't think anything was supposed to be a substantive change other than to make sure everything was clear.
Justin, this isn't the extent of what you're looking at because, so for example, in the downtown, I see a lot of definitions that could very easily be changed without a whole lot of process involved, but they're not looked at here. So is that, are we done? The zoning definition changes, is this the extent of it, or are they still continuing to work on zoning definition changes?
No, we're still continuing to work on the zoning definition changes in the downtown with the assistance of our county planner that we contract with every year, and these are merely remnants that were kind of left over from other changes really before we started looking at some of the downtown uses. So I think we actually have a meeting coming up next week, a work session. Ad hoc has directed the county, myself, and Keith Place to come up with a proposal for the downtown. We had a lot of discussion about the downtown zoning. It was a lot of productive discussion, but we weren't really making any progress, and we felt like we were at the point where we needed the three of us to put our heads together based on our working knowledge every day of the zoning ordinances and come up with a proposal. The ad hoc committee and council can either decide to go with the proposal, throw it out, or take pieces from it and modify it accordingly. So we needed a place to start, and that's the plan for the downtown.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one that we have on the agenda is the proposed sidewalk ordinance. So the summary of the major changes is really a new formatting that we're applying here in a chart form for the sidewalks. When I was asked to look at the sidewalk ordinances as they relate to using asphalt materials, I began to find that the ordinances were kind of a hodgepodge of different requirements that were appended over a period of time, and there was a lot of consolidation that could be done. So by putting the construction specifications into a chart form, it reduces the length of the ordinance from 9 to 6 pages, and quite frankly, it's going to be more straightforward for property owners and for the code enforcement staff to follow. So as I mentioned, the purpose for this exercise originally was to permit asphalt sidewalks. So we were proposing to allow asphalt sidewalks with this ordinances, provided that the color of the sidewalk and the texture matches at least one adjacent sidewalk. Our thoughts on this was that it allows the property owner to make more of a value-added decision and or a site-specific decision. There may be certain instances where it's in the property owner's best interest to use asphalt. Sometimes asphalt is a better material to use around trees, things of that nature. None of the maintenance responsibilities have changed for this ordinance, so that means if a property owner puts in a material that's not going to hold up as long as concrete, they're still going to be on the hook to replace that when it starts to crack or when it starts to become non-accessible. There are alternate materials, colors, and textures that could be allowed on the sidewalks. However, an official streetscape plan would have to be approved by council. That was something that we got into with the downtown, because right now in our ordinance we do not permit pavers in the sidewalks at all for any new sidewalk installation, but we have pavers in the downtown. So the way that we overcame that was that we will allow it as long as it's a part of an official adopted streetscape plan that's endorsed by council. As I said, construction specifications, maintenance responsibilities essentially remain the same. Tree wells and planting strips have to be comprised of mulch, grass, vegetation. That was in there before, I believe, or that intent was in there before. The new thing that we're adding to the tree well area is we are allowing pervious paving to be provided in the tree well area. We are also, a new requirement is that, not requirement, but a new option is that we're allowing pervious pavement on any sidewalk surface, provided that it is at least 4 feet from the building. And then lastly, another new proposal here are the use of tree wells and the prohibition of solid tree well walls, which can be a tripping hazard, tree grates, which can become heaved over time and also become a tripping hazard, and soil fill above the finished grade of the adjacent sidewalk, which can be a tripping hazard, and it can also kill the tree by rotting out the trunk. I did a lot of research on this and found out that the city of New York, they don't allow any of those things either, but they do permit tree well guards in accordance with design standards. So this would be a wrought iron or metal 18-inch high fence that would go on 3 sides of the tree well. The open side would be open to the roadway side, and then the post on the roadway side would be set back from the curb 1 foot, so that you don't have as many issues with the doors opening and things like that. The other thing this helps out with, in addition to protecting the tree from the soil becoming compacted, it does help out with the dog problem to some extent, where people are using the tree wells as a bathroom for their pets. So it's not going to prevent it, but it should help it a little bit.
Are you proposing that as a requirement?
No, not a requirement. It's an option. What happened was we had people that had roots that were pushing up the area in the tree well, and they said, well, what do we do about this? We want to do something that makes it not a tripping hazard. The walls, if you don't build it 18 inches high, they're really a tripping hazard. And when someone has a solid wall, they tend to want to fill it in with soil, which can kill the tree. So this was really the best alternative that we can come up with for folks that want to provide this type of treatment. And then lastly, the ad hoc committee has recommended advertisement of the managed meadow ordinances. So probably heard a lot about meadows these days. There's a lot of benefits. They absorb stormwater, help filter pollutants, recharge groundwater, reduce flooding downstream. It enhances food security because it attracts and sustains a variety of insects and bees and pollinators that are critical to the pollination of our local food supply. Reduces mowing to once or twice a year. Mowing is time-consuming, it's labor-intensive, it's expensive, and it's typically relying on fossil fuels. It also provides wildlife habitat, provides food and shelter for a variety of animals and insects. So this is a very basic ordinance and a revision to our property code maintenance. We've adopted the International Property Maintenance Code. This would change I should say, in the International Property Maintenance Code, there is a provision where it allows the municipality to designate standards for managed meadows and other natural areas. So we've decided to suggest permitting managed meadows with certain requirements. The first requirement would be that it would have to be on a property that's a half acre or greater. Obviously, we're an urban municipality. It's not practical for the row home yard to have a meadow in it, but it may be practical for, let's say, a school district property or a church property to have a meadow in it. Minimum setback requirements: 20 feet from the public rights of way and alleyways. This is to kind of goes hand in hand with number 3, where you don't want to have the meadows within a clear sight line. And then also 4 feet from pedestrian routes, parking areas, fences, buildings, property lines, that kind of thing. So you want the meadow to have clean edges, and you want also to allow space so that if the meadow does flop over, it's not into your neighbor's yard or into the sidewalk. And then last requirement would be that it has to be cut annually to a maximum of 6 inches before April 1st. So are there any questions about any of these recommended changes?
I have, can we go back to the sidewalks, the asphalt sidewalk?
Sure.
So it was provided color, asphalt sidewalks are now permitted, provided color and texture match the adjacent sidewalks. So asphalt is typically black, correct?
Correct.
So the sidewalk that's, if I'm replacing my sidewalk, the adjacent sidewalk has to be black, correct?
No. Your sidewalk color is based on the color of your neighbor. So let me paint this scenario for you. Let's say you have a concrete sidewalk at one of your neighboring properties, and you have a brick sidewalk at the other neighboring property. You could either put down asphalt and paint it a color that resembles the concrete, or you could stamp and texture a brick pattern on the sidewalk and have it dyed red to match the brick.
Right, so I'm saying, so I can't, it has to match the color. I can't just put down an asphalt sidewalk and leave it as black. I've got
Correct.
to do more work to it.
Correct. There has to be some consistency there within the block and within the neighboring properties.
And then my other, this was in the list of the general changes. It was revising the special exception criteria for continuing care homes, criminal housing facilities, and treatment facilities. Locating the flex office district to set the minimum lot size to 30,000 square feet. Presently, the minimum lot size permitted for these specific uses is set at 24,000 square feet. But the general minimum lot size for the flex office district is 30,000 square feet. So what? I've read this a million times. So my question really is this: by making this change, is it going to make it easier for people to open up criminal housing facilities in that flex office district? That's the point I'm trying to get at.
I think with a smaller lot size, as it is currently, you could argue that it would be easier for people to open up these type of facilities. And I'll let Chuck weigh in on that.
Yeah, I would agree. It's becoming more difficult based upon the increase in lots.
That's all I had, sir.
I just have a couple comments to add to what Justin was talking about. From a procedural standpoint, presuming council is supportive of all these changes that have been recommended, I would point out that for the managed meadow ordinance, it's actually changing 2 ordinances. Justin mentioned it's changing the property maintenance code, which is a relatively easy fix to the ordinance, but there's also a component that is being suggested that would be a zoning ordinance change. If you look at the draft, I believe it's section 4, we are actually creating a new section called managed meadows. So because there are 2 separate components to the ordinance affecting property maintenance and zoning, we would have to lump the zoning change into the zoning ordinance amendments we talked about earlier. So in theory, we could have the property maintenance code ready somewhat sooner than the zoning change. In addition, I guess when we talk about the sidewalk ordinance, we're actually amending 3 different chapters in the codified ordinance. We're amending the street and sidewalk section primarily or predominantly to restructure it to make it easier to use and shorten it. We're also changing some standards under the subdivision ordinance, which is a process of change similar to a zoning ordinance amendment, so that's going to take a little bit longer to process that. And I believe there was also a minor change to the tree ordinance under Chapter 25, so they can be lumped in under a general ordinance change. So we would suggest, or I would suggest to council, if you want to move ahead with these, we can pretty much pre-plan and target an adoption date that everything can happen at once, and we're probably looking at January if you want everything to go into effect at the same time, and that would probably be the earliest we could do that. So, just food for thought.
And the action we need to take on Monday?
Well, I think for each of the items on the agenda would be authorization to prepare and advertise ordinances and where required public hearings when we're talking subdivision, land development ordinance, and zoning ordinance changes.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there, in the ordinance, is there any specific statements as to at what point a resident has to fix a concrete sidewalk? Like, is it like inches, like, will offset a certain amount of inches, or is there any specific description as to what point a resident has to?
We could ask Mr. Plaistat, since he is our resident expert.
I would suggest, Keith, if you can respond to that.
For deviation in concrete sidewalk that has crack or whatever it may be, but normally that's not depicted unless there's an inspection for property maintenance, property transport, or road inspection.
Okay. In the new ordinance for the asphalt, is there any specific description as to what point a neighbor has to repair the asphalt sidewalk?
It would be the same as the concrete.
Okay.
Same standards, whether it's the sidewalk's crumbling, whether it has an offset that's out of what it should be.
The reason why I ask that is because a asphalt sidewalk's material is different than a concrete sidewalk. Because it's susceptible to heat. So, on a hot day, you're going to have, chances of asphalt sidewalk breaking down or more easily. I've been in New Jersey, where in townships where they allow asphalt sidewalks. I have pictures on my phone of literally a crack going down parallel to a good 20 feet, gaps 4 inches wide. Cracks along the sidewalk, and that doesn't happen on a concrete sidewalk. So, I mean, do we need to add any particular descriptions as to at what point a asphalt sidewalk needs to be repaired?
Might not be a bad idea. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's the only time that would be triggered is during a property transfer or inspection. Or based upon a complaint. So maybe not. I mean, if someone complains about it, we would still have the authority to go in there and require them to have it fixed and brought up to spec.
I'll show you the pictures I have because it does deteriorate differently than the concrete sidewalk. And so the description has to be. I would think the description has to be a little different.
Using blacktop in that aspect has become almost like a national standard. As you say, the criteria is different, it deteriorates at a faster ratio. In reference to what Justin's talking about, though, that is the property owner's responsibility when they choose to go with a cheaper product line in the beginning. They have to understand that there's more of a maintenance to that product line. Blacktop is more susceptible to the heat, to freezing, and thawing effects, just like PA roads are.
Right, and probably one of the first things you'll see is the paint will start to fade. So if they don't keep up with their painting, somebody's going to say something, or we're going to see it and put them on notice.
And currently, asphalt sidewalks are permitted, right? Because I see a couple around town, like over on Hanover Street. There's not the whole sidewalk, but there is.
Asphalt's permitted within 7 feet of a tree line.
Okay.
Currently.
So this would make it.
But there's no requirement to paint it, I don't think. There is? Okay, there is a requirement to paint it, I'm sorry. But you can't do a whole sidewalk in asphalt. That's the big change here.
That
Okay.
you're now allowing it to be.
Yeah, that's the change we're proposing.
So we'll list this to move forward on Monday.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just go back to this? I don't have any more questions. I just have, it's more of a comment about these 12 and 13 especially. We're spending a lot of money on something that really isn't, to me, critical. It's costing us money to advertise this, it's costing us money to pay Chuck to write these ordinances and staff time to look into them. I mean, we're doing this managed meadow ordinance, I'm sure for the one meadow that's going to be put in over at Edgewood School. We're just spending a lot of money on things that we don't need to spend money on. The tree wells, I'll be voting no on these, just to let everyone know.
So, Dennis, just to understand, you don't have a problem with the changes, it's the cost of.
Right, I mean, these are nice
changes.
things to have, but I just think the money could be spent better elsewhere, or not spent at all.
So
Because it's a lot, I mean, we look at those, I talk about those advertising costs all the time. I mean, these are things we're gonna have to advertise and have, Chuck look at, so.
So on Monday, you would move to table?
Yeah, table.
We already justified what it's not. It'd be the shape had with a wash. So I'd like to proceed with it.
Okay. Well, it'll be listed for Monday, and we'll take action. 14, Standard Sewer Specifications Ordinance Amendment.
If council recalls, I guess a couple of months ago, the authority had presented to council some changes to the water specifications in our water ordinance, primarily to update and make the specifications more convenient or adaptable to residents. The authority has undertaken to review its sewer specification, an ordinance that hadn't been reviewed in a number of years. I understand the authority has now formally adopted or made changes to those specifications, and like we did with the water ordinance and specifications, it would be appropriate for council to also adopt, incorporate in ordinance form these changes. There's templates, there's references to sheets. It's about 40-some pages of templates and specifications that are being updated. We'll put all the information in your packet for your review. A lot of it's technical, but we're relying on the authority and the authority engineer to indicate to us that this is appropriate to do to bring us into the modern age of these types of piping and connections and those things. So if you would provide us with authority to advertise that ordinance to adopt the specifications, we hope to have it ready by December 4th.
Okay, we'll list that. 15, Hill School Hobart Run 5K Race.
We have a request from the Hill School to close Beach Street, Chestnut Street, Grant Street, North Adams Street, Morris, Sheridan, Jackson, Henry, Edgewood, and Green, and Thomas. I believe there was a map attached to your packets on Sunday, the April the 15th, for 1 hour for the purpose of conducting a 5K race, the Hill School's Hobart Run.
Did anybody check with the neighbors, the affected neighbors in this area? This is Sunday morning during church hours. If that was going to impact them in an inconvenient or negative way, did anybody check with the neighboring residents?
I do not know whether the Hill School did or not. We could certainly ask them to reach out between now and Monday.
And then we'll have hopefully have an answering from some of those neighboring residents of what their thoughts are.
Okay, anything more, we'll list that. 16, Tiburon Endurance Sports 5K race for May 19.
This would be, I believe, the third or fourth year, Chief, is that correct? The Tiburon is requesting Borough Council to approve their running of a road race on the morning of May the 19th, 2018. The race would be from 10 to 11. I do not believe there would be any street closures. However, there will be traffic control that they would be providing, and obviously they'll coordinate it with the police department. They're just asking for council permission to run the race on the borough streets.
Okay, no comment. Let's list that for Monday.
I think this was the race last year, or this year, whenever it was, that the people they had doing the traffic enforcement were really rude. If I recall, in the fourth ward, I had at least two other people, you know, they were rude to me, and then two other people. So maybe we could talk to them about being a little more considerate to the people that live in town.
Fire police and Omega, who are professional. Sometimes they use flaggers.
Yeah.
Right. 17, Highway Material Bid Awards. Mr. Yerger?
This is our annual bidding for materials for various items, traffic signs. We have property maintenance, which is when L&I needs a contractor to go in and mow grass or shovel snow. We also have the highway materials, stone and other aggregates. We also have fuel bids for the buses, and we also have a variety of water pipes, fittings, and different connection devices.
Okay, you have this in your back. Any questions on these? Right, we'll list it for action on Monday.
Sorry, and I just want to go back. I think it's $50 for snow removal, $50 an hour. Is that what I, whatever, let's say it's $50 an hour. And we're billing the property owner. How much of that is being recovered is really my big question. So we're paying, the borough's paying us $50 an hour for people who didn't shovel their walk. How much of that are we actually, you know, getting back?
Right, so you lien the property, but do you have a statistical amount that we actually collect as opposed to lien?
Janice or Keith?
Well, he gives me the information to bill. We add what's allowed in the fee schedule.
But they're asking that there's this data right now to support that we're actually losing money or not collecting the money in turn. Based on what I saw on the system the other day, just for this year, 2017, what was billed out versus what we billed out versus what we're being billed, and collection, it honestly, from what I saw, it looks like it's very low in line. We are actually collecting the majority of the fees. We're not sitting leaning properties.
I can come up with that if you want.
Yeah, because we have to pay that, so if we're just leaning, we're still out of cost, the borough's still out of that cost.
So such time that the lien is satisfied, that's correct.
Which, we know how that works.
Okay, we'll list these for Monday. Board vacancies. We need one alternate for Codes Board of Appeals.
We have no applicants at this time.
None. And there's one vacant term on Human Relations Commission to expire 5/8/21.
We are waiting for a recommendation from the Human Relations Commission. Marcia?
Okay.
That will have someone to bring forward to you in December.
December, okay. Good? Sure. Barb, Looking for approvals for 118 King Street, 123 King Street, 720 High Street, and 125 North Hanover Street. The last two are administratively approved, so if you'd like to visit those or and review this till Monday, yes, those as well. Okay, 21. Council needs to have a discussion on replacing our borough manager. And I will open this with, a few weeks ago, I sent all of you the information that I was able to gather and learn about our options. One was to be, to appoint an interim and give us a little bit more time to start a search process. The other was to hire someone immediately. And there are variations of that. So I would like your feedback at this time.
I'd agree with that.
With
the cost
which?
of a...
Which was, what are you agreeing with?
To prolong, have somebody in the interim, because the cost of a search could be considerable, especially with our current budget situation. I think that'd be a good way to defer it till later.
Okay.
I agree, because it also allows for that opportunity later, and you still have the borough operating very smoothly.
Okay.
Dennis, I know you want to have input.
I concur. Shockingly, I agree.
Okay. Wonderful.
Can't believe it myself.
Okay, so it appears then we will seek to appoint an interim and perhaps do a formal search at a later date. Very good. I did mention up front there was an add-on, remembering this 21.5, discussions about the budget. Now, three of us, normally I would report this on Monday evening, but three of us had a lengthy Finance Committee meeting this afternoon. We know that several months ago, our borough manager came to us and said because of the extreme drop in assessments of the borough properties, we were not in as good a position as we were in the last few years. And the other thing he reported to us is we had become more efficient with the operation here in the borough, in that if you look over the last 3-4 years, the actual cost of running the borough has declined each year, and I commend the staff for doing that. But the opening process of the budgeting process started at about a 23% increase required to balance. And staff and some others have been working together on this to bring down our expenses as much as possible. A week or so ago, I had staff send everyone a copy of Draft 6 of the working budget, or work in process, and ask that you each come back with your suggestions for how we might trim expenses or generate additional revenues. It's kind of like running your own house, and Dad used to make, pick a number, $10 an hour, working 40 hours a week. But business isn't so good, so he only gets work 30 hours a week. You're not going to the shore for a week this year. You're probably not going to get a new car. Things have to be cut back, and we need to hear from you. What do each of your wards agree to cut back in services? What are you willing to give up? Any comment? You would?
So just as background, to refresh everyone's memory, in July we started with a proposed budget for 2018, and I believe when we presented it to you in September, it still had 9 of our funds that were in deficit. I believe at that time I told you, as Mr. Wien just said, the reason for the fund deficits Along with the continued decline in the assessed valuation of the borough, we have the increases in personnel costs and frankly the simple increases in doing the cost of business that every one of us deals with, even in our households. In September, I reported to you that it was our belief that the borough's assessed valuation would likely fall below $780 million. At your seats this evening, I provided you with a graph that shows that as of September 30th, our valuation was at $776.5 million, below what we had predicted for next year. And with some of the reassessments not yet reported, I suspect that our valuation is going to go even lower before January 1 rolls around. As of today, with the exception of Fund 1, the general fund, and Fund 14, the fire fund, all of the other funds have been balanced. And as a reminder, the general fund consists of the police department is fully funded from the general fund, while administration, licensing and inspections, public works, finance, and human resources are partially funded through the general fund with their allocations spread across water and sewer and trash as well. So the general fund deficit in July was $1,635,874. As of today, it's $1,156,729. And the fire deficit went from $256,186,000 to $260,320. This equates to a combined total deficit of $1,417,049. Just as an indication to you as to why some of the changes occurred, although not substantial, there was a reduction in the deficit. We had forecast a 10% increase in our liability insurance for next year. We got the numbers from our liability insurer, and they put us at a 3% increase, so we were able to save the 7% there. Our health care forecast for next year, we had forecast a 10% increase. Believe it or not, it came in at 0. We had a 0% increase for health care for next year. The MMO, the municipal obligation, was shared across funds. Originally, it was all general fund. We were able to share some of that out to water and sewer, and that helped offset the general fund expenses. The balancing of Fund 4, the Parks and Recreation Fund, was balanced through the elimination of the summer food program. In addition, provided that we are successful, and this is provided that we are successful, in receiving CDBG grant funding for the replacement of the Ricketts Center roof and their heating and HVAC system, we intend to exercise part of our agreement with Olivet and offset the capital expenditure by $10,000. In the parking fund, we eliminated the acquisition of the parking kiosks, which, as you heard tonight, may not be necessary after all, and we were able to balance that fund. We've sent out letters to all of our tax-exempt property owners asking them to make payments in lieu of taxes, a pilot payment. As of today, we received one pilot commitment for next year, and I expect there are more to come. I know there are two significant tax-exempt properties that are probably on each of your mind. We are in discussions with the Hill School presently regarding a pilot, and hopefully I'll have something favorable to report in the near future. In addition, I've been in communication with the leadership from Tower Health. They recognize that the application for the tax-exempt status for the Pottstown Hospital is part of a legal process, and at the appropriate time, Tower Health indicates that they will engage us to discuss their role as a community partner. I can't offer you any more in that regard. Finally, I want to note that there are no provisions in the budget that Janice just passed out for police vehicles. This is the third or fourth year, Chief, that we've been off target on vehicle acquisition.
Third.
So 3 years into it, the police department's even further behind in their fleet rotation. That's leaving them with an aging fleet that sooner or later, and I believe it's sooner because I believe it's already happening, this fleet is going to become more demanding in terms of maintenance and repair. And frankly, at this point, there's really no more cuts that can be done from either the general fund or the fire fund without your direction. If you choose to balance the 2018 budget to cover the total combined deficit of $1,417,049 with a tax increase, you will need to increase taxes by 18.39%. This would be a 1.902 mil increase, or in terms of property ownership, it represents an increase of around $161.67 on a property assessed at $85,000, which our studies have shown that about 80% of the borough properties fall into this category. Or if you have a property assessed at $100,000, it would represent an increase of $190.20. If council is not willing to raise taxes, the question is, what general fund services do you want to cut? What services are you willing to do without? Are they cuts in service from our police force, cuts in service through the reduction of elimination of works in our streets department, stop maintaining storm drains, stop maintaining borough vehicles, eliminate the rental inspection program, reduce or eliminate building inspections? The fire fund, what do you want to cut? What are you willing to do without? Eliminate fire marshal inspections, eliminate or reduce the stipend to our volunteer fire companies. It's important to remember that any reduction in service is going to mean a reduction in revenue to the borough, which is going to further exacerbate the problem. Reductions in service have a negative effect on our community in terms of quality of life issues, and most certainly will have a ripple effect stifling economic development in the borough. Finally, I just want to use this as a marker. Reductions in service obviously at the end equate to reductions in a workforce. To help make your decision regarding the 2018 budget in what I would call not so simplistic, but simplistic terms, to balance the budget without a tax increase, you'll have to cut services that result in either a reduction in the police force by 13 officers, a reduction in our union and non-union civilian workforce by at least 30 full-time and our 2 part-time employees, or reductions through some combination of the two. So with that said, I think that gives you the background you need to start your conversation.
Right. Now, since you all had over a week to look at the documents, and you just heard a detailed report from our manager, what would you like to cut? What service don't you want in your ward?
So can I just weigh in here, because this is where I disagree with the borough manager on services being cut as the end all of how to balance the budget, because I firmly believe that we could have services, not necessarily lose all services, cutting services and then taking out the employees, where we, and I asked before, have an objective look, and it is clear to me that this administration is not willing to have an objective look at the different departments and make the decision of employees that they can cut out of those departments and still maintain a higher level of service or a good level of service. But rather, they're asking you to say, what services do you want cut? And then we'll make the decision of cutting out essential services like the police and the fire. And I would caution you too, when you're looking at the fire department, that has another cost effect to the owner residents in the borough, because if you cut services in that kind of department, it will affect the ISO ratings. It will affect your homeowner's insurance. So please think it through carefully when you're looking at making cuts.
If you do decide to make cuts, evaluate the entire opportunity cost of losing that personnel, like Mr. Flanders said. That's, if you take something from our coast department, that's one individual's not out there collecting fees from, and then the police in particular. I'm sure Chief John Miller will back you up. The last 4 years, we had a 15% decrease in crime, correct? Every year.
We're actually on target right now to go, we'll get the 4th year in a row when we drop part 1 crimes.
In particular, in my ward, that's very important to me.
Yes.
And if I were to eliminate some, police officers, that's the crime's not going to say, oh well, Pottstown's having a little hard time, or they're going to people will let up a little bit. No, that the officers will have to incur overtime charges as well. So it's not just a clean money back to us. It's not very pleasant to think about, but it's just where we are.
Okay. Rita? Joe? I'm looking. Carol? Well, I do agree it is going to be up to council to direct staff as to which way to go. We don't have to make that decision tonight or Monday. We do have till the end of the year. There are some possible miracles out in front of us, but we have to be prepared.
It's also brought to my attention, what do we have to sell?
Pardon?
What do we have to sell, possibly?
Sell?
Yeah. It wouldn't really affect, this budget immediately, but
Yeah.
for that next year or something
Mhm.
like that. Somebody just asked me that.
We have a new garage.
Oh, let's sell that.
Or how about the new fire truck?
What about renting out space in the borough garage to other municipalities? Particularly ones that are looking to build a bigger borough garage and haven't had any success.
There you go. Why don't you go up to Upper Pottstown, see what they're willing to pay for a bay. Anyhow.
What about borough, we talked this about in finance a little bit about borough donations, and there's some, I understand, that are very critical, but there are some that could be eliminated. So can you list what all those are, Mark, now, or do all the donations the borough makes?
Janice, do you have that information at hand presently?
Or if not, put a list together and get it to us.
The donations discussion, do you have the list of what we donate to presently?
Oh, yeah, it's, the senior center is 9,000. The VA is 350. I forget what the other two were. I can come up with them for Monday.
That's fine. Put the list together and get it to us.
Okay.
Okay.
You could start by cutting the cost of the heat of this room, I suppose.
Well, we asked the fire chief if we could have open burning in here to heat it.
I think something else that's really concerning, we're talking about cutting these services and everything, but, and I said this the last budget as well, I trust Janice completely, and the picture that she paints for 2019's budget is not good. I mean, there's going to be an increase regardless. There is absolutely no way we can go into this year, and I hate to say that because the last budget I voted no because we did have an increase, but just looking at pension obligations and things that aren't even happening, currently, the situation is very, very scary. So we have to do something.
And you're right, Dennis, like you said in the meeting, most of these increases in costs are out of our control. It's not that we're buying more, it's just the needs that we have cost more than they did last year and the year before and the year before. And going back to the reduction in property assessments and valuations here in the town, those who, either on their own or with the help of some legal aid, went to appeal their assessment and won, they have a savings. But to make up the savings that they enjoy, it's going on the backs or from the wallets of their neighbors. We're not in a retail business where we can pick up a new line. It's not like Dunkin' Donuts that can expand and do bagels. And we have no service to sell other than that which we provide to our residents, be it individuals or businesses. Tonight is not the end-all, but this is a statement of position. This is where we are right now.
Do we know how many parcels went for the reassessment? Do we know the number?
I'm sure we can get by Monday, but no.
Because it's just a subset of the deficit.
Right. We had some assessed appeals last year, which is followed by more this year and probably more next year. It's just a way of life right now. Eventually, everyone will have their appeal made, and the way taxes work, as all the assessed values go down, the millage has to go up because we have all these fixed costs. So
Well,
you
that
have food for
continues-
thought.
Continues to devalue your property. Now, I will agree with Dennis because I talked about this last year. I was open to a small increase to support our emergency services, I think that they are necessary to the borough, and, I was supportive of that. But I definitely am not supportive of an 18.39% increase. So we all really need to start
Yes.
looking at this carefully and conscientiously.
Very good.
So Monday, we're going to come back with ideas? Is
I
that
hope
what
so.
I'm hearing?
Please. Okay.
All I ask is that you provide me with direction as to what services you're willing to give up.
So does that mean we're going to be at this stalemate of this administration is going to be unwilling to objectively look at each department with the employment and the services provided? Because I'm not convinced, Mr. Flanders, that there are areas where we have multiple people doing a position that one person could be doing. So are you saying that that is something that you are taking off the table? Because council, I would suggest that if you think about that and you consider it.
I think that it's an ongoing process, and to insinuate that we have not objectively been looking is a misnomer. We look at the efficiencies and the operations that we provide each and every day and try to improve them. At the end of the day, if you look at staffing and the tasks that are being taken on by staffing, we have improved efficiency immensely over the last few years, and we will continue to do so. The bottom line is the cuts to, if we have to make cuts to staff, which I hope we don't, but if we have to, it ends in a depletion of services that we provide to our citizens. It is not my prerogative or my place to make a decision for you as to what services the ladies and gentlemen in this community will not get to enjoy in the future. So give me the direction, and I will figure out from that point how to make the changes to meet that goal.
Okay, we'll come back to this on Monday. 22, comments from citizens present.
None?
None.
None listed, sir.
Okay, before we go into executive session, councilors' general discussion. Councilor Kirkland.
I'd just like to thank everyone who came out yesterday and voted. It was a really nice turnout, and I appreciate the support, and just appreciate all the volunteers, everyone that helped out. So it's been an honor to work past 8 years, and I'm looking forward to 4 more years of serving the citizens of Pottstown, especially Ward 7.
Councilor Paez.
I see this is the new,
Is your microphone
from
on?
next year, this is the new point where we can get working together and try to make the borough more efficiency in every way, because we're going to have new manager and new people, and we have to learn to work together as a unit.
Councilor Arms.
I have a couple things. So I was reading the Reading Eagle, sorry, Evan, and one of the headlines that caught my attention was Reading officials say over $11 million in fees may be owed to the city, and it talked about codes fees that were owed to the city of Reading, and it was just something that when I read that I was like, well, how much is owed to Pottstown? But that's not whatever. My other comment is, I drove by a property on High Street near the library I would say at least a week ago now, and there were probably 15 garbage bags, 10 garbage bags sitting out, and I took a picture, and it was kind of like a little test that I was playing to see how long these garbage bags would sit, because I thought maybe it's trash day, whatever, I don't know. I rode back again, the trash was still there. When I came back around, there were 2 borough vehicles within a block of this property. And it just blows my mind, and it's something we need to work on as a borough, of working together. Because all it takes is a phone call, a walkie-talkie to someone saying, hey, 107 High Street, or whatever it is, there's 10 garbage bags out here, send somebody from codes out, or whatever. But it shouldn't be me driving by, taking a picture, and playing games and seeing how long it's going to sit there. So, all of us are involved. I mean, citizens need to report things as well, but there are police officers that drive these streets and walk these streets. There are public works employees that drive and walk these streets that can also be reporting those things.
Councilor Proskauer.
Well, of course, I'd like to, thank everybody for coming out yesterday. I'm sorry they didn't have too many options for the first floor councilor race, but congratulations to my other councilors on their victories, and I'd like to thank Councilor Miller and Madam Mayor for their service.
Councilor Miller.
I have two. The recognition of the Employee Service Awards is great, but I want to make a recognition of a particular employee, Ginny, our borough administrator, because she is the glue that holds this borough together, and I don't think she gets enough recognition. And in August, if anybody had noticed, the Reading Eagle does this really wonderful segment of people in our community that work in our community that inspire people, and Ginny was recognized in August in our town segment in the Reading Eagle. So I'm really pleased that they did that. And Ginny, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. And also for awards, annual awards, we did, October was Fire Prevention Month, as it is every October. We did zero recognition of our fire department, fire services, and firefighters. And I would like to, I worked very hard to get the community to understand the service that the fire department does bring to us. So I would like, before I leave in December, this to be the first, if everybody agrees, is that we start recognizing a fireman of the year, whether that be a paid fireman or a volunteer fireman. They do incredible service throughout the year, all of them. So it should not be difficult to be able to do a recognition of a fireman of the year once a year, December before I leave, and then every October would be appropriate thereafter, because that is Fire Prevention Month.
Okay, you have a procedure in mind for selection?
I think that we should have the borough fire chief work in coordination with the company fire chiefs.
Okay. Sounds good. Mayor Thomas.
Councilor Arms, when you just brought that up about the fees, were you suggesting that that's a possible plug or potential action that could close some gaps? What was your...
I trust, our finance department and our manager, but it was just something that if Reading's sitting on 11 million of uncollected fees, and they probably won't even collect anything, but it's just something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward.
This is a matter of reference, Mr. Arms. We have a specific person who attacks, for lack of a better term, property owners who are in arrears on, shall we say, higher utilities and tax bills when it involves a licensing issue. And I think they've been very successful in recovering. In fact, I think there was a pretty large recovery this week or late last week, correct?
For about 2 hours worth of work, $7,800. Ever since we instituted and started enforcing Act 90 and going forward, we've recouped a rather large amount of money, not just to the borough, but also to the school district and the county. And that's money that, even though they had agreements with Portnoy for the collection agencies, because we're able to use Act 90, we have been recouping that money by forcing their hand by possibly either not issuing the permits or removing their ability to rent their properties.
That's it? Okay. Well, as for me, I'd like to thank anyone and everyone who voted on Tuesday, coming out, doing your duty, exercising your rights. From what I heard from the county, Pottstown had a very good turnout. I had not seen the exact numbers yet, but at least we were recognized at the county level that Pottstown had a very good showing. It's the way this government works. You come out, you make your choices, 2 years or 4 years later, you make your corrections, and we move forward. So thanks to all who voted. I need to let you know we will be going into executive session for litigation and personnel, and we will not be returning. Meeting adjourned.